So I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I know there are things that I specifically look for, or that I guess I pick up if I see them, basically. Like, they're always kind of on my radar, even if in the background. What are the things that you always pick up? I assume it's a reasonable price. Obviously, there's times where things are not reasonable, but
yeah,
you know, what is like your go-to stuff? If you go to a garage sale and it's there and it's cheap, what will you pick up?
honestly, board games.
Any kind of board game?
Not any kind, but like if I see them, my brain is just like activated. I gotta go look at the board games. But
do you have certain board games that you will always pick up? I know some of them can be surprisingly valuable.
I will pick up
fun.
Monopoly boards.
Really? Why?
Especially if I get them for like $1. But they're different variants for like, I'll go up to $3. Super dirt cheap. Main reason, I don't do it myself, even though I should. My buddy parts them out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll trade him a board game I got, and he'll give me Magic, and he'll part them out and sell just the cash, just the pieces, just this.
And you think that's worth it?
He does. I don't know if that's worth it just because of my time in it.
I think it makes sense if you have a rare game and it's incomplete. Then it kind of makes sense.
The thing is, he just does it because that's what he wants to do. He's like, even he said that even a more valuable Monopoly board, it's more. He's like, it's worth more money if he parts each individual thing out and goes, here's all the tokens, here's all the houses, because to him, he puts an extra $20 or $30 in his pocket. Mm-hmm. But it's going to sell slower because most of the time people aren't going, oh no, I lost.
You're looking for somebody who wants to complete the game they have rather than buy a new one, basically.
Yeah, and I don't know why he does it that way, but to me, it's like, if I pay $1 for it, he gives me like $3 or $5 worth of cards, and then...
So you use it in a trade and barter system?
Yeah.
Not directly in your...
Not directly, but I've been selling more on eBay since then. I haven't actually seen a Monopoly board now that I think about it. It's been a good while.
I know it was you that cued me into the potential value of like old and retired games or rare games. Because I found one at Goodwill for $3 a while back called Frontier 7. And it was made in Michigan. And the new ones were like complete, were pretty valuable, and unfortunately, of course, I found one that was missing like 2 things.
Yep.
But we sold it incomplete. I did not part it out. I just sold it for parts or whatever, disclosing that it was missing whatever 2 pieces it was missing or whatever, and 2 or 3, and we still, I want to say we sold it for still $20, $25 or something, which isn't bad for a game that doesn't work, but it was interesting because you did tell me after that to like keep an eye out for old games.
I think the main reason that he parts them out, he doesn't like dealing with anything large with shipping.
That's fair.
Like, to him, he's just like, no, if it can't fit in a padded envelope, it's not worth his time, which I don't understand at all.
I don't agree with it, but I do understand.
Like, I understand, but when the padded envelope's $4 and you can get a box that will fit the Monopoly board or whatever it is, and it might be $8 or what, it just, I don't know. He doesn't like dealing with shipping.
I get that, but yeah.
Doing that where you just take a board game, I've done that too, now that I think about it, where I'm like, it's missing 1 piece, listed it, and it earned me like $12 after fees and shipping.
You may even be selling to a reseller that does what he does, parts it out, especially those rarer games where they only come up once in a while. But it's just not my game. I would rather not make 15 listings when I could make 1 listing and just sell it for a little less. That's me though, and that's everyone does resell a little different. Has different thoughts about that. I do understand not liking to send awkward or large things. There have been a few things that we got and we sold and we're like, oh, I do not want to pack this, And so we try to keep things. You've seen a lot of our stock. With few exceptions, we try to keep things on the small to medium end. And it's great when you can fit something in an envelope. But a lot of our stuff are small to medium boxes, and then every once in a while we get one that's awkward and annoying. But sometimes I'm looking at it and I'm like, I just can't. It's too good of a margin there, and it's a desirable thing, and I can't leave it, you know?
The thing is, overall, going to the post office in itself is the pain. And so it doesn't matter to me what's going into a box, if it's going to be large or, as long as I'm not having to go get a freight truck to come pick up the item.
There are people who do that.
But there are people who do. And, like, as long as I can put it in a box and get it out and it's going to get there safely, I'm happy.
I think the problem with our stuff is we sell a lot of things that can dent or break. And so if it's large and awkward, it becomes this whole make sure it's padded right, and then we might have a box that's either too small or way too big. If it's like some weird kind of large but not huge, so then you end up with a situation where you have to cut down boxes, and we both hate cutting down boxes, but you can't leave it the full size because you'll either use up all of your packing materials or it will cost you $10 more to ship. So I like the medium to smalls, but there are always exceptions to those rules. But going forward, we're going to look for.
Have you seen where people use pool noodles to package items?
No, but it's a good idea because it's just foam.
And I was thinking about that. I'm like, I need to keep my eyes open for when those pool noodles go blah blah blah. Pool noodles go on clearance, so that way I could just get a whole bunch of them and then have them in my inventory of packing material.
Or watch for them in garage sales.
Yeah, although with garage sales they're probably going to be dirty.
Yeah, it depends. Depends on the ones, but yeah, you're probably right.
So, but
maybe you can hose them off in the yard.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Do you buy packaging at garage sales ever? I found for $10. I got a box of mailers, and we also had a bunch of manila envelopes at the bottom. Actually, they were like Chrysler branded, so I don't know if somebody was an engineer and like brought it home or whatever, because we live in Michigan. So you do find at estate sales and garage sales in Michigan, big three related items. I found quite a few times where I've gone to garage or estate sales and I found like drafting or stuff where you can tell they were a draftsman or an engineer.
I found a GM branded like celebratory watch.
You find all kinds of weird stuff like that because it's Michigan. But I was a box of mailers, like unused bubble mailers. There were some photo like stiffer cardboard, not cardboard, but like
the rigid mailers.
The like sort of photo mailers.
Yeah.
And I paid $10 for the whole box. I counted them out, just not counting the giant manila envelopes that maybe we can just use for like safekeeping of like paper products. But I think they were less than 50 cents a piece. I just picked it up. Thank you.
I found tons of envelopes, and I've used a lot of those because I've been selling magic cards for ages, and envelopes are the best way to ship those.
That's one thing I do pick up. When I'm sourcing, if I see them and it's cheap, is like packaging materials.
Yeah, and stamps.
I've never bought stamps at a sale, but it makes sense.
I found like a roll. It was nearly 100. It was like they used it for like 3. I think I paid $10 for the whole roll, and I was like, awesome, because normally.
Especially if they're forever stamps, so you're not paying going rate.
Yeah, they're normally, I think it's 20 something bucks for. No, it used to be. Now they're up to like 40.
I have to keep my eye out for those more often, especially at estate sales, because I think that's something that they'd just be like, whatever. But what else? So you pick up, you gravitate towards board games, but is there anything else that you like? It's an always pick up.
Not anything specifically. Like I'll go look through video games, but generally I don't even pick up video games. I like selling them, but there's a lot of time I just leave them there because
that's an annoying market these days.
Yeah, I like selling them, but most of the time when I get them at a garage sale, they're either slightly overpriced or the market is flooded, and so it's like a $5 game, free shipping, $8 game, free shipping, and it's not worth my time to sell things with free shipping because I'm going to put after fees and everything, $1.50 in my pocket.
Yeah. Same with estate sales, because a lot of it depends. So one time we found a bag of them like in a closet at an estate sale, and my husband, in that time my husband was with me, and he went up and asked for, can you do whatever on this? Then it was like $10. It was something stupid, like cheap, and it had like DS's in it, and they just let it go for whatever.
Systems are a bit different because.
But no, it had a bunch of games in it too, including like a Zelda.
Yep.
And it was like a handheld. And anyway, that's a rarity though, because at estate sales, they're often advertised and there's photos, and they will take pictures of the video games. And so the like broski resellers who are like super aggressive will be there at the crack of dawn and like fighting people for them.
So like,
I'm not gonna play that game. I
enjoy selling them. I don't prioritize them. It's just like one of those things where if I stumble across them, I'll go, oh, cool. Yeah, this is a good price. But.
Yeah, if there's too much coming, it's just like people are rude about it too. Yeah, I'm not gonna fight somebody over I've seen a couple of videos on YouTube about like bad behavior surrounding video game reselling, and it's just, come on. There
was one estate sale. A bunch of people got there like 3 hours before the sale because they had a whole collection, and it's just like, why? I get it to hold your place in line, but. You're standing outside somebody's house. It's
and
I don't
want to be like the frenzy and like rifling through a bin with somebody else breathing down. I'm not into that at all. There's plenty of other nice things in the world, things that a certain type of reseller doesn't even ping on the radar. Like I said, I went to the bins. I picked up some Waterford Crystal. I know a lot of the resellers are looking for toy collectibles and this certain things. They would not give a second look. Like they would break. In fact, when I picked those up, there was a box of like other like stemware and stuff that was smashed, and I don't know if it was the employees at the Goodwill or if it was
in transit or whatever,
or someone throwing it and smashing it. I don't know. It's annoying how much gets broken because it's perfectly good things, but. I am often that person. We've talked about like the bottom feeder method. I'm not gonna fight over a bin of junk at the Goodwill bins. Like I'm not gonna. Maybe I'll look at the new ones that roll out, but I'm not gonna like.
Gotta get the best
in the
deal.
Middle, and there people are throwing stuff. I mean, like it's to the point that like our bins, when they bring out new bins, they make you line up against the wall. You can't even look at the bins that are out because they've had such bad behavior from people. And then it'll go and they'll be like, don't run and don't throw stuff. Like to them, these are adults.
Dodgeball rules.
These are adults, quote unquote. That they're having to do this, and the rest of us are penalized because of a few people's bad behaviors. Like I'm of the mindset they should just kick out the people with bad behaviors, and if you cannot behave yourself, you don't need to be here. But I'm not in charge, so everyone else gets to be annoyed.
So what about you? What do you like? Ooh, I see this. I gotta have the shiny.
Like I said, Riedel stemware. I've talked about it a bunch. They're really pretty, and people like them. And people, because they can be on the pricier side and they are stemware, so they're breakable. I think a lot of people like to buy them secondhand because it's a good quality item that you can get a little cheaper, and then if you break it, you don't feel as bad. Probably, or you can just afford it. You can actually afford a set, because they are. So the sommelier line, totally different. Found those, I've talked about those before. I found a couple of those at an estate sale for a good price. Those are high-end, hand-blown things, completely different. But even the Riedel machine-made ones are nice quality. They're refined looking, and I think that's why people like them. So if they're in good condition and they're a good price, like. Usually I won't pay more than like a couple of bucks a piece, and usually I don't even want to pay a couple of bucks for the machine-made ones. I'll go pick them up, usually. And then Le Parfait canning jars, their French brand canning jars, swing top. I think I talked about in a recent episode that I sold some. I get those for myself too. So I don't use them for canning. We're in the U.S. The canning regulations are a little different. In fact, seems like the U.S. has researched canning like safety more than a lot of European countries have, which is interesting. So canning recommendations and the canning conventions here in the U.S. are separate piece lids, like, you know, where you can tell if it's, the biggest issue is to make sure that you know whether it seals or not, and make sure you don't have like any spoilage that's being hidden by the jar, you know, because the other ones have glass lids with a gasket, and so you can't really genuinely tell if you've had a good seal or not, a safe seal. So that's why the US doesn't recommend using like French canning jars for canning, but they are good for things like pantry storage. So I like using Le Parfait jars in my pantry to store dry goods. Sometimes I've used them before with my sourdough starter to get that, you know, like to put the sourdough starter in it to feed it on the counter, or just things like that, because they do have a hermetic seal, so they're airtight, and they're just good for that kind of thing. And the lid's attached, so when you go to open it, you don't have to like keep track of your lids and all that kind of thing. So I usually will pick those up if they're cheap. I'm mostly for myself looking for like this big or bigger jars, just because they come in from little to all the way to like 3 liter, and the little ones like have their uses, but obviously for storage and stuff, it's not always the right size. But I do pick those up. They do sell. They sell slower than, let's say, like a Rita Glass, but they do sell. So, and I think they're expensive to buy new. They are expensive to buy new, I think, because they're imported. So they're decent quality because they are made for canning originally, but they're made in France, and so anything imported is going to be more expensive. So I would pick up those. Same with Weck jars, which are a German type of canning, glass-lidded canning jar. If I see those and they're cheap, I pick those up. Which sounds like such banal stuff, but like some of these little banal things, if you were to buy them new, are expensive. And to me, garage sales, estate sales, the thrift store, great places to get practical items for not a lot of money. And so when you're talking about stocking a pantry, and we like a well-stocked pantry, you need a lot of them, and to buy them new would just be really expensive. So those are always things I look for. I'm always looking for like interesting things, you know, like I showed the mushrooms that I bought at a garage sale and took a gamble on, you know.
We were just talking about that creepy old lady.
Oh, we'll pop a picture up here of that.
Saw this old lady.
Did you take a picture of her?
And I didn't. I wish I did. I should have. So we both saw at separate times. There's a local thrift store, and they had this. It's a dummy that you put in your house. It looks like a grandma, and
is it ceramic?
No, it's rubber.
Resin?
It's like a rubber latex.
Was she wearing like a bonnet and okay, you had to have it sitting in a rocking chair?
Yeah.
Okay, it was the same. We literally saw the same one
like,
at different
you're
times.
supposed to be able to put different clothing on it and stuff. It was weird enough to be like, what are you? You're so unique.
It's funny that we both looked at it.
But it was just like, I don't want to mess with it. There was some money to be made there, but it was so creepy looking.
It was like this big. Too.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
like
big.
Small child size.
Yeah, so it's funny that we both looked at it. Because I picked it up, actually. But, interesting.
Yeah. It's that type of stuff always draws the attention, because it's like, Google Lens is my friend. But the other thing, as stupid as this is, like pens and paper and like that office supplies. I don't think I've ever bought brand new office supplies aside from like printer paper. You
should estate sale for those, because they do not care. Like they'll give you a whole box of pens or whatever for $5, and I do it because, like I mentioned, like you can sometimes find stuff from like Draftsman. So vintage pens, vintage mechanical pencils that are really good quality, because they use sometimes, and especially when you're talking about things that were used by a draftsman or an engineer. Even now, a drafting pencil, like a drafting mechanical pencil, often has like a metal shaft. They're good quality utensils, or like not utensils, I guess, but like implements.
Tools.
Yeah, tools. And they're not valued by, unless they're like a really fancy like fountain pen that they know is probably expensive. They're often not valued by estate sale companies, and they'll give you a whole bin of them Like,
yeah,
for nothing.
I don't think I've ever paid for any of that brand new. Like, just because of the amount of garage sales and Goodwills and stuff where it's like, oh, grocery bag full of them. $3? Cool. And then some of them are duds, but whatever.
One time I bought a lot of those, like a lot of pens or desk supplies at an estate sale for like $5. And I pulled out of it like, it was kind of risque. I had like a lady, it was a pinup pen, but like one of those floaty pens where things float back and forth. We sold that for like $9 out of this lot, and then we had a lot of other things just hanging around.
Utensils for yourself.
So yeah, I look for that stuff too sometimes, partially because I know some of it is sellable. Like some of these vintage pens and pencils that have value.
Yeah,
and even like leads and stuff if you can find the replacements.
Sold some old lead. I've sold some sealed like kits of mechanical erasers and a whole bunch of weird stuff. Like just really nice pens.
I think sometimes people get them and then they're hard to find the exact replacements for.
Yeah.
Especially if they're old or whatever.
And people just give it away practically.
Yeah, because people think like that's a pen. Like what? For some people, a pen is a pen is a pen is a pen. You know, and that's not true if you know anything about writing or if you're into art. Like the scale of quality varies a lot. And we all know the difference between a pen that drags and a pen that, you know, is silky smooth. Yeah. But, yeah, so you just never know. And I also look for really the banal items that I think other people are not going to value that I know something about. So I do the same thing with kitchenware. I think I talked about before, I got a really nice pair of kitchen shears for like $1. Because kitchen shears, it depends on who makes the kitchen shears and how good quality they are. If you have a knife manufacturer making a kitchen shear, it's going to be a better kitchen shear than some just dollar store version of a kitchen shear. You know, so I think I'm looking for things like, and I would tell that to someone who wants to get into this business or who's maybe into it, but wants to expand the kinds of things that they're looking for and they want to sell, is learn what kinds of banal items have value that most people don't think have value. Because there are a lot of little nitty gritty things in a house that if you're not in the know, you wouldn't know one brand from the next. And it looks like something boring and not of value. Another thing I pick up, if I can get it cheap, and this goes along with like the packing supplies, tissue paper. I went to the bins, found a bunch of tissue paper, like even just still like connected together, and we use that for packing. And it's the bins, $1.49 a pound, in my cart.
What I'll do is I'll take some of that. I'll actually wrap books so that way the cover's not. And then put those into either the bubble mailer or the box, depending on what it needs to fit in. But
yep, and it doesn't matter the color. And if you're selling on a platform like Etsy, where maybe sprucing up the packaging a little bit is beneficial, then it's also good for that too. You can, you know, wrap the item in the tissue paper and then put the bubble wrap around it or whatever, just to give it a little bit more zhuzh, you know. So I always pick up that stuff, which sounds like so boring. Like some of the stuff I buy is boring. It's not sexy at all. But who wants to go and pay?
Right.
You know, tons of money for this stuff. I don't want to go to Office Max and buy my shipping supplies. No. You know. No way. No offense to Office Max. They have their place in the world, but I wouldn't make any money if we had to buy everything new. It's keeping it from just getting dumped, because that's something that would very often just end up in the garbage anyway. You know, if someone like me doesn't pick up the tissue paper or the bins, I mean, next stop is the garbage. Like literally the literal dump. And then it's just a waste at that point. So I do that kind of thing.
I'm just imagining
it sounds so dumb and boring.
Goodwill was like, oh, you know what? We're going to start a new program. We want to recycle this stuff. And then they just start taking it to Salvation Army and dropping it off.
Just makes the rounds from like thrift store to thrift store. That'd be funny. You know what I learned though is how cheap Goodwill is. I was told by the workers near me that they don't even pay for like paper to wrap things in. They snatch it out of the donations.
Oh my gosh.
So I bought something recently that was glass, and they were literally ripping up like wrapping paper that they had pulled out of the donations.
Hey, I do the same thing, recycle everything,
yeah.
but
But this is a corporate that literally makes money off of getting everything delivered to them for free, and they don't even buy like paper to wrap glass in.
Yeah.
You know how much perfectly good wrapping paper is now being destroyed by... I'm just thinking like brand new rolls.
Vintage wrapping paper from 1978!
Which someone probably would buy.
Oh yeah.
If you could find it. So keep an eye out for that at the estate sales. But yeah, I don't know. I look for things that are interesting. I would say that's something I'm always game to pick up something interesting. But yeah, I do have those few specifics that I'm always kind of looking for. Can you think of anything else that you always pick up?
I really like pins, as weird as that is.
Pins? Like
stick
pins?
Like buttons and...
Oh,
and
you've
like
told
pins.
me this before, I think. Like enamel pins and stuff.
Yeah, because you can get them at garage sales and estate sales for nothing. Like, I've been to Goodwill one time. I grabbed a Ziploc bag. It was like $2 for the whole bag. And it had a dozen or so pins in it. I went to an estate sale recently. I paid like $1 and I got like 15 or so pins. And they're slow sellers. Mm-hmm. They go for like $5 each, which isn't a ton, but often you'll get one person that buys one and then they'll buy maybe another one. So you're not really selling just one at a time. And they take up such little inventory space. And
a little drawer or something.
I have it's like a jewelry making kit box, one of those that's got all the pockets in it, and so I just put it all in those. And they're super cheap. They sell for like $5 to $10, depending on which one they are. And they make money. And I get them for nothing practically. And
have you ever found a really valuable one?
I found one from like a reggae festival from the 70s.
Oh, interesting.
I have it listed for like $120 or something like that. And it's got watchers, which is like, all right. And I based that pricing off of one from the next year that sold for $150.
Holy crap. Is it like an enameled pin?
Yeah.
They're probably really rare.
And it was just one of those things. I didn't know what I got when I got it because I saw he had a box of pins. I'm like, how much for the box of pins? He's like, $0.25 a pin. I said, okay, that sounds fair. I counted out and gave him my couple bucks. Moved on with my life. And it's just one of those things I would not have expected that to sell for.
It's often the weird, like, random stuff that's the most valuable.
Actually, that might not have been $120. I think what it was, I think I've got it listed for like $60 or $80. But still, I paid $0.25 for it.
Yeah.
And the one I based it off of was the following year's pin that sold for like $120, $150, somewhere in that ballpark. And it was just like, it's no bigger than this, It's just like, okay. And so that's the only one I found where it was like, that's bananas.
I wonder if it was maybe a limited run reggae festival. Like maybe it only lasted a few years.
I have no idea. I've got like 2 or 3 people watching it, and I've had probably a couple dozen people look at it. Mm-hmm. So it's known, but it's one of those, yet again, very niche, very specific.
Well, I just wondered if it might be only like ran for 5 years or something.
Yeah,
because we had a thing where we picked up. Also the other thing I'm looking for is art stuff, like artwork. I picked up
supplies.
Like I mentioned earlier, the paintings that reminded you of the old lady at the Salvation Army. They're like folk art paintings, and I found them at the bins. And I'm like, I think someone would buy them. They're kind of funky and interesting, and I'm into funky and interesting. And so I'm always looking for like art and art related stuff. And I can't remember where I was going with that. Oh, I was limited run. So we were at I think I've talked about them a long time ago on here, but we picked up a couple avant-garde magazines, and this zine ran like 1968 to 1971. Hyper limited run. I think there was maybe 14 issues as a run, per year. In New York City, all about avant-garde art. And my husband found one in the closet with some books. We picked it up for like $5. And then we went back again I think he found one first. And then we went back again and found a second issue and ended up selling them together for quite a bit. I want to say $50 or $60 for the 2 issues. Actually, we ended up sending them back to New York City, which is interesting. But I wonder if it might have been a similar situation where it was a limited run. It wasn't a festival that lasted 30 years. One every year for 30 years. Maybe it was only a few years.
Yeah.
And so like reggae, or maybe like a specific reggae band.
From what I was looking at, because I know in either that next year or the year after that, some band, I don't listen to reggae, so I don't remember, but some band that was notable was there, but this was like 3 years before that.
Okay.
So it was just none other listed on eBay, none other sold on eBay recently.
It must be pretty rare. And we're talking 70s,
yeah.
So it was a long time ago.
It was just like, I have no idea. It's so weird.
That's funny. It is that stuff though, because it's the niche collector. It's something that there's thousands of in the world is not going to be as valuable as something where there's small amounts or things that were easily thrown away or just like, that's why posters, like concert posters are so expensive, or original Broadway playbills and stuff, because it's ephemeral in nature. And so if you still have one, it's worth money.
And it's just those very unique items. I like selling them because they generally bring a better price tag, but they are so hard to figure out. Oh man, what should I price this for? Is there even a market for this? Should I even buy it? And this goes back to that mentality of why I like just the shotgun spray of, I don't care what I'm selling. I'm just picking up interesting stuff. And if it's under $1, I'll probably gamble at it. But
yeah, I think you can build your intuition too as you go along. The more experienced you are. But then I also think, I feel like we've talked about it before too. Like, if you like it, or if it caught your eye, chances are someone else will like it too.
Yeah.
And or think it's interesting or cool or whatever. Like, there are things that are not, I've talked about this too, things that are not to my taste. I would not, those face things that we put in our, I mean, I think they're funny. Yeah. I think they're funny and interesting.
You don't want to decorate your house, feel like you're being watched constantly? I was
not personally interested in having a full set of bathroom faces. But they caught me, like, I looked them up because they caught my eye to begin with, because I'm like, these are interesting. They're weird and funny. And so I could put one in my house. I could see doing that. But I'm not interested in the set, but that gets me going, basically. Oh, I caught that. Or the mushrooms that I ceramic mushrooms. Like somebody will like that. I know that. Somebody will like that. So I think sometimes you can build the more you get familiar with things, the more you can build this sort of intuition, and you can start to make really educated guesses on whether or not someone's going to want this item. And sometimes practical items, obviously, sure. Like some things, no brainer, someone's going to buy it. But when you're talking about niche items that you can't find comps for, it's like, you just got to go on your gut, I think.
Yeah. But yet again, that wasn't one of those things that I said, I paid $0.25 for it. Yeah. And I was getting it with a bunch of other ones, so.
Yeah. And how much you're paying for it always makes sense. Because you'd be like, yeah, I definitely can get $0.25 out of it or whatever. I don't know, they're going to garage sale or whatever.
I mean, worst case scenario, it goes into big baggie with a bunch of other ones, spread them out at the table, go, yep, big lot of pins, starting bid of $10 or whatever.
If you've got watchers and it's at $60-some, if you dropped it by half, I bet you would sell it. Yeah. If you really wanted to get rid of it.
But do I really need to worry about getting rid of it?
Maybe not, but if you ever did, 5 years go by or something, you could always.
Yeah, and then, we talked about that before. You can always go back, drop prices.
Especially when you pay $0.25 for it.
I love sending offers, though.
Me too.
Because
I do it all the time. If I see one on there, boom, send. With a couple exceptions. If we just listed it and all of a sudden we have a watcher, I might wait a little bit.
Yeah. I had like 5 of those today where like I listed something within 30 minutes of listing it. People were watching it. I'm like,
buy,
okay,
please.
cool.
Can you buy?
Cool. Just buy it.
Just please buy it.
I have had though. This happened recently. I sent somebody an offer, and they're like, I want to take the offer, but I can't. Can you wait till Friday? Because I get paid.
Send me the offer then.
I'm like, yeah, just send me an offer. I'll take it. Okay.
Yeah.
It was funny.
What was it?
Magic cards. So
okay.
It was just like, yeah,
Sure.
that's fine.
If
Just
they're
send me an
still
offer.
listed,
Yeah,
just send it
I'm
back.
like, I'm not gonna delist them and hold them for you, but sure, if you want to send me that offer, I'll take it. So it was just funny, and that's where
Happens.
communicating with your buyers, it goes a long way.
Hopefully they come back.
They did.
Oh, they did?
They bought
Nice.
that stuff that they requested that price point, gave them that, and then they came back and spent like $100 more.
Nice.
So
they were serious.
yeah.
Cool.
I was happy. They were happy. So.
Anyway, do you have any more to add to this conversation?
No.
All right, we're going to close out here. Thank you so much for joining us again for Secondhand Sellers, where we talk about all things thrift, resale, and secondhand. I'm Sarah.
I'm Klayton.
Join us next week for more of the same. If you enjoyed our content, please like and subscribe. That really helps out our channel. And we love comments, so throw those down below. Happy thrifting and happy selling.